Hello, TOEFL students! Today, we are going to review comparisons and superlatives in English. In the last class, I said that parallel structure is used for coordinate conjunctions, paired conjunctions, lists, and comparisons. When you're comparing, you point out the differences and similarities between two things. And those similarities and differences must be parallel, so they must have the same grammatical structure. On the TOEFL test, when you see any of these expressions used for comparisons, you need to find the two things that are being compared and check that they are parallel. So check that they have the same structure. Let's look at an example. Being rich is better than being poor. We have our expression for comparison, better than, and then we have being and an adjective, and then on this side, the word being and another adjective. So these are parallel. They have parallel structure. The second sentence. Golf is less interesting than football. The two parts being compared are golf, a noun, and football, a noun. So this has parallel structure. Look at this sentence. What is wrong? Mary's hair is longer than Betty. This sentence does not have parallel structure. The two things being compared are Mary's hair and Betty. They are not the same grammatical structure. The sentence should be Mary's hair is longer than Betty's hair. Now, can you see how the two things being compared have the same grammatical structure? So now, let's review how to use comparatives and superlatives correctly. When we compare two equal things, we use comparative adjectives and the word than. Comparative adjectives are the adjectives that usually end in ER. Here we have Robbie is older than Willie and Laura is shorter than Anna. Here are some rules for making comparative adjectives. For one-syllable adjectives, you add ER at the end. For one-syllable adjectives that have one short vowel and one consonant at the end, then you double the consonant and add ER. For one-syllable adjectives ending in Y, the Y changes to an I, and then you add ER. These rules are all for one-syllable adjectives. But what do you do if you have a larger adjective? An adjective that is two or more syllables. When you have a large adjective with two or more syllables, use either more or less the adjective and then the word than, without adding the ER. So, for example, we can look at these two pairs of shoes, and we can say the gold shoes are more expensive than the blue shoes. We use the word more, our adjective without adding ER, and then the word than. to compare these two shoes. When we are comparing something with a group, we use superlative adjectives. Usually, superlative adjectives end in est, and superlative adjectives always have the article the in front of them. Here are the rules for superlative adjectives. For regular one-syllable adjectives, you add est. For one-syllable adjectives, with one short vowel and one consonant at the end, you double the consonant and add est. For one-syllable adjectives ending in y, the y changes to an I and you add est. With superlative adjectives, when you have a large adjective that is 2 or more syllables, you use the words the most in front. So here we can say, this homework is the most difficult. Not all adjectives follow these rules. There are some irregular adjectives. For example, we have good, better, best, bad, worse, worst, little, less, least, much, more, most, and far, further or farther, and furthest or farthest. Be careful with this last adjective. Both farther and further can refer to distance, but only further has an additional meaning of more. Let's also look at double comparatives. Double comparatives are phrases used in English to say that when something increases or decreases, it causes something else to change. Here are some examples. The more you study, the more you learn. The more children you have, the bigger the house you need. The harder you work, the more you accomplish. And the faster the car is, the more dangerous it is to drive. Usually, double comparatives follow one of these two formulas right here. Today's activity will help you practice comparatives for both the TOEFL structure section and TOEFL written expression section of the test. Remember, for this part of the test, we should first identify the subjects and verbs and decide what is missing. So we have a subject, the use, and a verb, is, and then a connector, and, another subject, almost all students, and another verb, employ. So that means our sentence is missing either a connector, a subject, and a verb, or something different. And the something different can be a comparison. So we know from this sentence that we are not comparing two different things. So we don't want comparatives, we want a superlative. Remember, a superlative either has est or the most and then an adjective. So that means our answer here is dog. Now, let's look at some of the questions for written expression. Peter Abelard, a logician and theologian, was the controversialist teacher of his age. We have a subject, Peter, and a verb, was. And now look over here. Are we using a comparative adjective or a superlative? This is comparing more than two things, so it's a superlative. Here we see the EST, which is the normal superlative ending if the word has only one syllable. But controversial is a longer adjective. It has more than one syllable. So we do not use EST. So we will circle cat because the answer here should be the most controversial. And number 5, the leek, a member of the lily family, has a mildest taste than the onion. We have a subject, the leek, and a verb, has. We can see that we're comparing two things, a leek and an onion. When you compare two things, you need to use comparative adjectives, not superlative adjectives. And look, mildest is a superlative. So we will circle boy because here the answer should be milder, a comparative adjective, because we're comparing only two objects. Okay, so your assignment for today has both TOEFL structure and written expression questions that have comparisons and superlatives. As always, if you have any questions or you need help, you can send me a message and I'll help you. Good luck!